This is The Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. Now, our job is simple. We, the journalists, inform you, the listener, about the world we are living in. To do that, we spend a significant part of our time reading what's going on. It's fundamental to what we do here. So, periodically, we like to highlight local businesses and institutions that do the same thing by encouraging literacy. Sidetrack Bookshop is an independent bookstore in Royal Oak. It's owned by Jenny and Jen Carney and has been open for about 4 years. Jenny joins me now to talk about their business. Jenny, welcome to the Metro.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you here as well. Now, your bookstore is sandwiched between Washington Avenue and the train tracks in Royal Oak, hence the name.
Uh-huh.
You have been operating out of there for about 4 years or so, but you have a connection to the space that dates back well before then. So talk to us a little bit about your history there.
It is a great, it goes back pretty far. My mother opened a tropical plant store in our space in 1975 when she was pregnant with me. So I really grew up in this space. I played in the windows just like my son Ben does now. So it's a family experience.
Hello, Ben. I hope you're listening somewhere, listening back to this one day, Ben. But that's amazing to think about that you grew up in this space, and the space, of course, was a plant store, but now it's a bookshop. Can you talk about how your mother and yourself have found your passions within this space?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so like you said, it was about 4 years ago, and it wasn't that much longer before we opened that we actually came up with this idea. And it was also a family experience then. My wife and I had traveled up north because Ben, he was 7 years old at the time, and he was going to sleepaway camp for the first time. And he was thrilled about this plan. Jen and I, not so much. So we decided to camp about 3 minutes away from where he was doing overnight camp. And while he was away having so much fun at camp, we did a little bookstore tour up in northwestern Michigan. So we went to bookstores in Traverse City. We went to bookstores in Glen Arbor. We just did this tour. And it was, this is 2022 or summer of 2021, right? It's the first time we've been out in public in a really long time. And the feeling was just amazing. It felt like a big hug almost being in these stores. And so from there, we decided we needed to open our own store. We've always been a family of readers. And that's really what did it.
A lot to unpack. I'm thinking, of course, the pandemic it showed so much to people. It shined a light on so many things in our lives. And the one thing that you and your wife wanted to do was to bring people in through the love of books and literacy and reading, just like with your family. Mm-hmm. So talk about the family or the familial vibe that you've created with the bookstore.
That's exactly right. We founded this bookstore on the idea of building community, inclusion, but also comfort and love and joy. We really wanted to center on that. And I think that we are not the only ones that were trying to emerge from this horrible, horrible event.
Yes.
That are seeking that community, seeking out other people, recognizing how we just want to connect in person. And it's really what we've centered on.
And it's really needed right now. So you grew up in the community, of course. You grew up in that space. You were there before you were even, breathing in the air.
Exactly.
So understanding this area as a longtime resident, was a bookstore like Sidetrack missing from the community?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first things we did when we were kind of dreaming up this idea is I developed this it was a Google form, right? And it was like, I called it something fancy, like a, market research study, but it was just a bunch of questions like, where should we open our bookstore? What should we carry in this bookstore?
Yeah.
Because we had no experience in bookstores, right? We're just readers. Yeah. We love to read. And I thought it would just be my family that would, fill out this form for us. One of my cousins said, hey, there's this Facebook group called Royal Oak Residents for Royal Oak. Send it to them. The response was overwhelming. The Royal Oak community wanted a bookstore and wanted it in downtown Royal Oak. And so that's what we did. And that response has just continued, more and more every day. People are in town on the weekend, going to brunch with their kids. They stop in the bookstore. Now we've started doing things like story times at the Caboose. And so we did a story time a couple weekends ago. I had the pleasure of reading a few books to kids there. 30, 40 minutes after the story time was over, all of these families are still sitting on the rugs, talking to each other. And it's not the kids. I mean, they're there too, and they're looking at the books. It's the parents who have a chance to maybe meet somebody new, connect with a neighbor, something like that. And that's just have a conversation.
Or, just talking to another adult,
Right.
when you're around little ones, especially when you're around little kids, just having an adult conversation just in the middle of the day around Bluey or whatever happens to be on at that time. I have tons of nieces and nephews, so I get it.
So the Bluey.
Oh, 100%. It's that favorite show around every household right now.
Well, and the cool thing about Bluey is we have Bluey books.
Yeah.
And do those draw the kids in? They want to read those books. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. Find out what you love, okay? And that's what you read about. And that creates a totally spontaneous joy of reading. And that is literacy, right? You spark the joy. That's how we do it.
Yes. And I think about, of course, 4 years now, you're putting the books, you're watching it grow slowly but surely. And you talked about connecting with community through social media, which is oftentimes, I say, a barometer or a test to know what your community wants is go to a community Facebook group or online group to see who's talking and what they're talking about. So as you said, you're still listening to that group. You're still talking to folks. What are some of the things that they're asking for now, especially in the world that we're living in?
Yeah. Wow. And I think what we see over and over again is people want to connect in person. They want community. They want to find like-minded people. And so maybe it's something like we do so many book clubs a month now, which is totally driven by our booksellers. And so they're all different. But my book club I started doing is a nonfiction book club once a month because I've not always been a great nonfiction reader. So I thought, well, this is a great way. And so we have read books that are really about for example, we read Hate Won't Win, which is by Michigan Senator Mallory McMorrow, who is our state senator in Royal Oak. And it's all about, like, what can you do, right? And actions you can take if you're not feeling good about the world. But we also have all the, we have a sci-fi fiction book club. And it's that, and some of these others are just a way to escape and to find comfort. We do a junk journaling night once a month where people just come to the store and, cut stuff up and, make art. So it's all about, yes, it's about learning. Yes, it's about reading, but it's also about just having conversations with people, I think is huge.
Yes. You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Tia Graham, and my guest is Jenny Carney. She is a co-owner of Sidetrack Bookshop in Royal Oak with her wife, Jen Carney. Now, what kind of inventory do you all have at the store? Do you focus on any particular genre?
We don't. We carry, so at Sidetrack, which is our original location, we carry books for, young adult books through, anything for, fiction, nonfiction, romance, fantasy, science fiction, lots of nonfiction. And then over at the Caboose, we expanded to open the Caboose a year ago, November. And that's where we have everything from for babies through like middle school age. Really popular over the Caboose, of course, are the graphic novels for kids. Certainly the Bluey books, as I mentioned. But what we try to do, we're not a big store. We can't carry everything. Yeah. We try to focus on curating a selection of books that is consistent with our values. Mm-hmm. And again, leading with love, leading with what is going to bring comfort and joy. And so we want to make sure we have, like, in the romance section, amazing thing that's happening with romance now is you see so many different kinds of love stories. You had Lisa Pierce on the show last week.
Yes, shout out to Lisa.
Yeah,
yes, it was
hi,
a great
Lisa.
conversation.
Yes, yes, and we love Lisa. We have her books on our shelves. And, she's writing love stories, sapphic love stories, but also featuring women who are not 22 years old, right? And so, like, there's just so much out there so that people can see themselves in a book, or maybe it's a window to another idea, another way.
And just sticking with that for a moment, just for yourself personally, being a book lover of books, how does it feel to see this new, not because it's not new, these books aren't new, but to see the new love for them and this new audience that's finding the books and seeing themselves within them?
Yes, that's just the best part. When I was a kid growing up, I was such a reader. I always had my nose in a book. But to realize and to offer kids the opportunity to find something that they can really connect with and can really find that joy. I think I could have read anything at that age, right? And I would have been perfectly happy. But that's not the case for everyone. Yeah. But to help kids find something that that they want to read. And so it doesn't feel like this heavy school assignment, boring, whatever. It's such a gift. And it's so cool to see.
I always say my introduction into reading, I fell in love with a book of poems by Shel Silverstein. So,
yes.
So that's how I fell in love with reading. And I remember I took that book of poems everywhere I went and just read one because I just thought it was just the best thing to have with me. I thought it was the coolest thing to have that book of poems. But for a long time, it was assumed that sites like Amazon were going to eliminate bookstores, but that appears to have been a little premature. According to the American Booksellers Association, more independent bookstores are opening their doors now. You all are an example of this wave. Why do you think that is?
Well, I am so excited that you asked that question because when Jen and I first came up with this idea, we did what we called bookstore field trips around the area to visit other bookstores. And one of the stores that we went to is Source Booksellers, which is like practically across the street from where we are right now. Yes. And we went in and Miss Janet was there in the store. And of course, I recognized her, but we were feeling kind of shy. And so we didn't really say anything at first. We're just looking at all the shelves. And then finally, my wife, Jen, who's much braver than I am, sort of confessed to Miss Janet that we were thinking about opening a bookstore. And she said, well, that is excellent. And first what she did, we had Ben with us, and she found him an encyclopedia or something, some great kids nonfiction book. And she sat him down in the corner to kind of keep his distraction. Then she said, do you have a piece of paper and something to write with? No. And so she went into the back room and she got something for us to write down. And she says, write this down. And she told us that the secret to what independent bookstores do is we convene. We are bringing like-minded people together. We are of the community. She said, you need to find your community. She said, and that's the connection. It's the connection to your community. It's the connections that are formed between individuals. She says, that is the secret. And I think that's a perfect example. Like this community of independent bookstores, that's what they're doing. And that's what we're all doing. And that's the secret. And, Miss Janet is, she and Allison, but they are icons.
I was going to say, they are literally like living legends in the independent bookstore realm. It's amazing.
Yes. And we just felt so honored to get those words of advice, and we have taken it to heart. And I think it is just such an example of the community of independent bookstores. You mentioned in the lead-in here, we have Independent Bookstore Day on Saturday, right? And that is celebrated across North America, in Canada, all of the states, and here. And in Michigan, we do something called the My Book Hop, which it kicks off on Saturday, Independent Bookstore Day. And it is an opportunity for all of our, community bookstores to hop from store to store over the course of the month. And you get a little, like a card, a passport type card. And on one side is a bingo card and all of these different bookish activities that you can check off. And then on the other side is the passport, and it lists all of the different participating stores all through the state, including the Upper Peninsula. And with each store that somebody visits, they get an entry into this prize pool. And with each bingo, they get an entry into the prize pool. And the grand prize is a $500 gift card to bookshop.org, which is an online way to order books that supports indie bookstores, right? And then there are regional or smaller gift cards, like a $20 gift card to the independent bookstore participating of your choice, right? And so all of these folks, it's just this amazing community, and you get a chance to visit all of these different bookstores, and it's a chance for all of us to raise up our independent bookstore friends. So that's just a perfect example.
Jenny, I had no idea. May you please say the name of the month-long event again?
Yes, it's the My Book Hop. So it's MI Book Hop. And it's if you go to mybookhop.com or on your social media at My Book Hop, you can check it out. You can download and print out your own bingo card passport. But of course, all of the participating stores will have copies of them as well. And it's just, there are so many stores just in this area, right? Within driving distance of where we are right now. And you get the whole month to enter to win.
Jenny Carney is the co-owner of Sidetrack Bookshop in Royal Oak with her wife, Jen Carney. I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the Metro, spreading the joy and love of literacy and reading, and letting us know about mibookhop.com. That was amazing. Thank you, Jenny.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Coming up, Earth Day was yesterday. However, this weekend, there are a slew of activities to get involved in and get you out, get you exploring nature. The Old Grove Forest of Palmer Park will hold the Art and Music in the Trees Festival this Saturday with the goal of getting folks excited about being outside. You all stay right there. This is The Metro.